So let's kind of flip over to good advice that we've gotten. This is advice that I got from my parents who think that they did an excellent job raising me, which I personally agree, but which
It's
is
still out. It's still the jury's still out on that one, Gabby.
noted. Which is talk to your kids about budgeting and personal finance. Help them get started if you can. I have been shocked by the number of people that I know, young people who getting out of college, for example, they'd never had a credit card, which meant that they couldn't run an apartment by themselves. They couldn't buy a car post college because they had no credit score. They had nothing. Or kids who get their first credit card and they just go hog wild because they don't really understand how it works.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about it, I have two young boys, and I think, you teaching about finance is such a central thing because finance, if you look at what causes stress in so many people's lives later on down the road, it is the inability to manage finances. So if you can cut that off at the pass when they're young, it is a great benefit to them later on.
Absolutely, and you hear about all sorts of different methods. For example, if your kid gets an allowance, having them have to take part of their allowance and put it into savings, and part of it goes to charity if that's important to you, and then the rest of it can be spending money. That's a really easy way to start young kids understanding how budgets work for them and how they need to save up for things that they want. They can't just blow it all at once because what happens later on, right? Another bit of advice that we got was this is more in terms of stocks, but to buy things that you see around you. So the story that I got was a friend of mine who's was really active in the lacrosse scene growing up, and he would go to tournaments and all the kids would have Under Armour. And this is back before Under Armour was big, but his parents were like, oh, maybe we should buy stock in this thing. It seems like a lot of the kids are wearing it. And that, as you know, Under Armour's stock has just gone up and up and up and up. So if you have young adults around you, often the things that they find popular and that they're using, they tend to be market movers. So that's a good way to invest.
Yeah, and it's, if you think about, last week we talked about great books that we recommend to investors, and one of the top five that you had recommended that people at the Motley Fool love is Peter Lynch's One Up on Wall Street, where he really digs into the buy what you know philosophy. And the other great investor that kind of delves into the same kind of philosophy in terms of investing is Warren Buffett, but he pitches it as you always want to buy investments that are within your circle of competence. And that's why, as a general rule, he avoided technology stocks, which have been good, but it just wasn't something that he knew about.
Absolutely. And you can apply this to your own life in whatever way you want. I don't know, for example, I really love burritos. I know what makes a good burrito. So I can go out and try a bunch of different burritos and say, you know what, this is the best burrito I've ever had, and then invest in that burrito company. That's just I guess a commonplace example maybe of how that might work.
But the funny thing is, Gabby, you say, you kind of like chuckle about it, but you're right. I mean, right? I mean, like, think about, literally, I can remember the first time I ever ate a Chipotle burrito, and like, I loved it. You know what I mean? And to think back, if I had acted on that impulse and bought stock, well, Gabby, I probably wouldn't be a co-host on the podcast right now. You know what I mean? I'd be living a life of leisure, a life of a gentleman. Trotting around on horses and doing things like that.
Well, I would have a Maxfield shaped hole in my heart. um, so my last point of advice, good advice that I've received, again from my parents, is if at all possible, spend less than you earn. This is a really basic concept that a lot of people seem to have trouble with.
Yeah, if just keep this in mind. If you want to be a capitalist, you got to have capital, and the only way you can gain capital if you don't inherit it is by spending less than you earn and allowing that to accumulate.